Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us for this second in five series of short webinars on the law of unfair dismissal, in particular the law of redundancy. And in this session, we're going to look at the consultation process that you must follow once you've identified a potential redundancy scenario. My name is Gary Smith. I'm one of the partners in the employment team at Knockhold Solicitors. And consultation is a critical part of the redundancy process. And to start that process, you've got to look at what we call the pool of employees who should be placed at risk. So this is the group of employees from whom the redundancies will be made eventually. Now, the good thing is that it is in the employer's discretion who is to be included within the pool. The employer has to show that they genuinely applied their mind to the composition of the pool, but that is really as far as it needs to go. So they'll be looking at things like what type of work has ceased or diminished, employees who do the same or broadly similar work, are jobs interchangeable? Or alternatively, for larger employers, was the pool already agreed with a trade union or indeed the employees themselves? Now, once you've identified this pool of employees who are going to be placed at risk, you then need to look at consultation. And as I say, this is fundamental to the question of the fairness of any dismissal that might follow. It's important when approaching any redundancy that the employer does so in an open-minded manner. And critically, the consultation must be capable of influencing matters. Okay. Adequate information must be provided and an appropriate amount of time given, although unless you've got 20 or more people potentially being made redundant, you don't need to have a certain prescribed number of days. You've then also, as part of the consultation, got to give conscientious consideration to the comments of the employees and their feedback. But importantly, consultation requires you to consult with your employees. It does not require you to agree with your employees. You do not have to reach a consensus with them. They don't have to agree with the final decision, but you must show and be able to demonstrate that you took what they said into account. So what then do we consult about? Well, frankly, all of it. So firstly, the business case for the redundancies, the drop in work, the improvements in digitization or the likes. You would consult on what the alternative options are. Rather than redundancies, could you agree pay cuts or a restructuring of some kind? What alternative employment opportunities are within the business? If one team has to make redundancies, could you move those individuals to a different team or some of those individuals to a different team to avoid having to let the individuals go? And you should also be consulting on the selection criteria that will ultimately be used when looking to make the redundancies. Now, as I say, where there are fewer than 20 employees being made redundant, there is no prescribed timetables, and the shorter the consultation, the greater the likelihood that the quality may be questioned, however. So you do need to bear in mind that a consultation that's maybe only 2 or 3 days is in all the circumstances likely to be questioned, whether it was conscientious, whether you took into account what the employees had to say. Generally, you'd be looking a week or two for a small scale redundancy, but that does depend on the circumstances. And the closer you get to that magic 20, the longer you would likely have to do. Once you do get over 20, you're looking at 30-day minimum consultation. What would you be consulting on? What would the process be in terms of the consultation? Well, firstly, you would meet with the pool to advise who is at risk. You would write to everyone at the pool to confirm the situation. You would set out your proposals and your reasons, and then you would start meeting with the employees individually if there are fewer than 20 potential redundancies to discuss the proposals and see what you can do. Once you've considered all of their proposals, you may write to them in response if that's appropriate to do, and then hold some further meetings with them to follow up on any points that came up. You would then finalize the scoring criteria, apply that to the employees in the pool, and those who score least well, you would then have a further meeting with them to discuss their scores and whether their scores are appropriate. Do they agree? Do they not agree? You would finally then confirm that redundancy in writing. Now, there is no legal right to appeal. The reason for that is in some redundancies, you have had to choose between 2 employees for a role, and having made one redundant and told the other they are successful, it is impractical then to hold an appeal with the redundant employee that then potentially pushes out the other employee who had been assured that their position was safe. Having said that, it can be best practice to hold appeals. It all depends on the scenario, but is there a legal right to appeal? No, there isn't. So that's it for this session. The next session will be on suitable alternatives to redundancy, suitable alternative employment, and hopefully you can join us for that. Thank you.